Today in Vatican City, a day unlike any other in the past 600 years, as thousands upon thousands gathered to bid farewell to a retiring Pope, Benedict XVI. Right there with them, my co-anchor, Terry Moran, who brings us the latest from Rome. Terry?
Greetings from Rome, Cynthia. Well, Benedict XVI had a hard act to follow. John Paul II, one of the most charismatic leaders of the 20th century, and Benedict's papacy in many ways has been a troubled one. But today, on his last full day as Pope, all that seemed to matter back there in St. Peter's Square is that he was there with the faithful one final time.
It was a sweet swan song on a glorious Roman morning in St. Peter's Square. A huge throng of pilgrims turned out for Pope Benedict XVI's final general audience, and as he drove through the crowd in his Pope-mobile one last time, they pressed forward, they cheered, they reached out to him in fond farewell, to this soft-spoken old man who shepherded the Catholic Church for almost 8 turbulent years and who now is laying aside the keys to the kingdom.
Dear brothers and sisters,
he spoke to the pilgrims, to the listening world, personally, nostalgic at times, but also recalling difficult moments, the scandals and troubles he's seen. There have been times when the seas were rough and the wind against us, he said, as in the whole history of the Church it has ever been, and the Lord seemed to sleep. But he kept the faith and won their hearts.
What a scene it was back there. And we're joined now by Christiane Amanpour, ABC's Global Affairs anchor. Christiane, first, Pope Benedict XVI. His legacy, what do you think?
I think that he's going to be known as a very intellectual pope, a professorial pope, a pope who deeply loved the church, who deeply believed in his faith, not a charismatic pope like John Paul II, not this person who really had this cult following like a rock star and who created a rock papacy, really John Paul II. And Pope Benedict, as you said, had a hard act to follow. But today, you know, a man who doesn't usually wear his heart on his sleeve, I think did to an extent. You could see the emotion, you could see that he was struggling not just with what he said was the joy of his ministry and of his papacy, but also of the difficulty and the struggles he'd had. Particularly, he talked about the choppy waters, and of course referring not just to the world problems, but to the problems that have rocked the Catholic Church. The frightful sex abuse scandal that erupted first in the US and then came here under his papacy, his attempts to deal with it, but not having finished the job, and people wanting to clean house and to move on from this thing that has so damaged the church.
And let me ask you to put on your Global Affairs anchor hat. For Catholics, obviously, this is an important moment, a beautiful moment in many ways. For non-Catholics around the world, why does this matter?
Well, you know, I think, and I've thought about this a lot, I'm a Roman Catholic, and yet the Pope has always been a statesman. He's always been somebody who doesn't just minister to Roman Catholics, but his movements, his pronouncements, what he says, what he does, where he goes, the fact that he's visited and sought out by all world leaders makes him much more than that. And so what he does and says affects many other faiths as well. It matters because it's 1.2 billion souls in the world. He's the only faith leader in the world with such a big flock. And as I say, who else rules a billion people other than the heads of China and India?
A major, major news event for Catholics and non-Catholics alike. Christiane, thanks very much. So, Cynthia, tomorrow is the departure of Benedict XVI, and then begins the discussions about who comes next, and we'll be here.